The jungle was alive with sounds that humans rarely heard. Strange calls echoed through the towering trees, and the thick vines swayed as if whispering secrets to each other. John Carter had walked for hours, his boots sinking slightly into the damp ground with every step. He was far from the human settlement, on a mission to explore this alien world for resources. It was dangerous, but John had always been drawn to danger. It made him feel alive. As he moved deeper into the jungle, he noticed that the canopy above had thinned slightly, letting a few golden streaks of sunlight touch the ground. He paused, taking a breath and listening. That's when he heard it, a small, high-pitched cry. It was unlike anything he had ever heard before, somewhere between a whimper and a yowl filled with fear. John's instincts kicked in. He followed the sound, moving carefully over roots and rocks, his eyes scanning every shadow. The cry grew louder, more urgent. Soon he reached the edge of a ravine, a steep drop hidden beneath hanging vines. And there, clinging desperately to a thin branch, was a small creature. Its fur shimmered with silver and black stripes, and its eyes were wide with terror. It was clearly an alien child, some kind of feline species, but it had the unmistakable look of innocence and fear. Without thinking, John dropped to his knees and peered over the edge. "Hold on," he whispered. The branch was bending dangerously, cracking under the child's weight. John's heart pounded. He had no rope, no special equipment, only his hands and determination. He looked around and found a thick vine. Grabbing it, he tied it around a nearby tree, fashioning a makeshift lifeline. His muscles tensed as he lowered himself down inch by inch toward the creature. The alien child trembled as John reached out, speaking in calm, reassuring tones, even though it could not understand his words. He stretched his hand and finally, miraculously, clasped the small, paw-like hand of the creature. The branch cracked loudly. The child's eyes widened with panic, but John held on, pulling with all his strength. The branch snapped entirely, and John swung the child close to his chest. He climbed back up, sweat pouring down his face, lungs burning, until he finally reached solid ground. He dropped to his knees, placing the child safely behind him. The creature was shaking but unharmed. It blinked at him, its eyes large and trusting. John reached out to stroke its head gently. "You're safe now," he said. He felt a strange bond forming instantly, an unspoken understanding between the two. The child chirped softly, nuzzling his hand. But John's relief was short-lived. A sudden movement in the shadows made him freeze. 3 tall figures emerged, stepping silently through the undergrowth. They were humanoid but clearly feline in every way, with muscular frames covered in sleek fur, tails swaying behind them, and eyes that glowed with a sharp, intelligent light. They moved with a grace and precision that made John's skin tingle. He instinctively stepped in front of the child, raising his hands. "Wait, I saved it," he called out. The figures paused, tilting their heads, observing him carefully. Their ears flicked and their eyes narrowed. They communicated among themselves with soft, melodic sounds that John could not understand. He realized immediately that these were the child's protectors. The air was thick with tension. John knew that any sudden move could provoke them. He took a deep breath, trying to appear non-threatening. "I only saved it from falling," he said. "I didn't mean any harm." One of the figures stepped forward, towering over John. Its eyes scanned him, and John could feel the intelligence behind that gaze as if it were weighing his soul. Suddenly, the lead warrior lunged, testing him. John reacted instinctively, sidestepping and using his human ingenuity to dodge the attack. The creature's claws swiped where he had just stood. His heart raced, but he stayed calm. He knew panic would be fatal here. Using the terrain to his advantage, he moved behind a large tree, keeping the child close to him. The warriors paused again. The child, sensing the tension, let out a small cry. The sound was strange, almost hypnotic, and it had an effect John could not have expected. The warriors froze, their eyes softening slightly. The lead figure hissed softly, a sound that seemed almost affectionate, and the others followed. John realized that the child's voice could communicate something deeper, something that words could not. He slowly lowered his hands, keeping his movements smooth and calm. "See, we can help each other," he said, though he wasn't sure they understood. He glanced at the child, who nuzzled against his chest as if sensing his calm. The warriors circled him, their eyes never leaving his. One of them approached cautiously, sniffing the air around John. Time seemed to stretch. Every second felt like a test. Then the lead warrior made a soft, clicking sound, pointing its paw at the child, then at John. John nodded slowly. He understood the message. They were assessing whether he was worthy of trust. He could feel the weight of that judgment pressing down on him, heavier than any physical danger he had faced. John thought quickly. He needed to show them he meant no harm and that he could be trusted. He sat down on the ground, keeping the child safely on his lap. He spoke softly, trying to convey calm and reassurance. He reached into his pack and pulled out a small water container, offering it to the nearest warrior. The alien hesitated but eventually approached, drinking carefully. The tension eased slightly. The warriors exchanged soft sounds among themselves, then each took a cautious step back. John realized that he had earned a small measure of trust. The child chirped again, this time more playfully, and the warriors responded with gentle hisses and soft gestures. John allowed himself a small smile, but he knew this was only the beginning. The jungle was full of dangers, and he was an outsider in a world that did not belong to him. He had acted with courage and quick thinking, but the alien warriors were not the only threat. He had no idea what other creatures roamed these dense forests or what challenges lay ahead. Still, as he looked down at the alien child in his arms, he felt a surge of determination. He would protect this small life, no matter the cost. The bond they had formed was immediate and unbreakable. And perhaps in this moment of connection, he had taken the first step toward something greater, a chance to prove the value of human courage and ingenuity in a world that was alien in every sense. The warriors watched him for a long moment, their eyes reflecting a mixture of suspicion and cautious respect. They had come to defend their young, yet here was a human, an outsider who had risked life and limb to save it. That action alone was remarkable, something even they could appreciate. Suddenly, the jungle fell eerily silent. John's instincts screamed that something was coming. He tightened his hold on the child and glanced at the warriors. Their ears twitched, tails flicking, and they crouched slightly, alert. The soft rustling of leaves turned into louder noises, and John could sense that the jungle itself seemed to be warning them. He didn't need to wait long to see what approached. A shadow moved through the undergrowth, larger than any predator he had imagined. Its eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, and its movements were purposeful, focused on the small child in his arms. The alien warriors hissed softly, moving in front of him and the child. John knew this was the moment to prove his worth once again, not just to the aliens, but to the universe itself. His mind raced. He scanned the area quickly, looking for anything he could use: vines, rocks, roots, even the terrain itself. His human brain, trained to solve problems creatively and adaptively, began formulating a plan. Whatever this creature was, brute strength alone would not work. He needed strategy, cunning, and precise timing. The creature stepped closer, its scent filling the air. John could feel the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. The child whimpered but did not cry out, sensing John's calm determination. He adjusted his grip, ready to react. The alien warriors crouched, ready to strike if necessary, but John realized that their strength combined with his intelligence could make them an unstoppable team. As the shadow loomed, John took a deep breath, focused, and prepared for the first move that could decide the fate of both the child and himself. In that moment, he understood something profound. Being human was not about physical superiority. It was about courage, thinking under pressure, and the willingness to act when others might hesitate. That was the power that could earn respect, even from an alien species more powerful than himself. And as the jungle held its breath, John Carter stood firm, ready to protect the small life he had saved, knowing that this encounter would change everything. The shadow moving through the trees revealed itself slowly. It was enormous, taller than a man, with thick armored scales that glinted in the dim sunlight filtering through the jungle canopy. Its eyes were a bright, dangerous yellow, and it sniffed the air as it approached, clearly aware of the small alien child in John's arms. Every instinct in John's body screamed danger. He tightened his grip, holding the child close to his chest, feeling the rapid heartbeat against his own. The three alien cat warriors stepped in front of him instantly. Their fur bristled, tails lashing behind them, and their claws flexed. Each movement was precise and full of purpose. John could feel the raw power emanating from them. If he had faced this creature alone, he would have had no chance. But together they formed a wall of speed, strength, and awareness. He felt a small flicker of hope. The creature took another step forward, and the jungle seemed to shiver under its presence. Its claws dug into the soft earth, leaving deep marks, and its jaws opened slightly, revealing sharp teeth. It was clearly a predator, intelligent and patient, watching for an opportunity to strike. The alien warriors hissed softly, communicating with subtle gestures and movements that John could only guess at. One of them flicked its tail sharply, and the others mirrored the motion, forming a defensive triangle around the child. John had no weapons beyond a small utility knife and a basic tool kit. but he remembered the way the terrain had been around the ravine. He looked quickly for anything he could use: thick vines, heavy branches, loose rocks, and started moving silently, laying traps as he went. The child clung to him, eyes wide, but John kept his voice calm. "We'll get through this," he whispered, more to himself than to the child. "Just stay still and don't make a sound." He tested it quickly, making minor adjustments, then retreated to a safe distance behind one of the warriors. The predator's eyes followed his every movement, calculating, patient, almost as if it were aware of his plan. Time seemed to stretch as both sides watched each other. The jungle around them was alive with tension. Birds and smaller animals had vanished, hiding from the giant predator. Every leaf rustle, every crack of a branch echoed in John's ears. He felt a strange sense of exhilaration. This was the kind of challenge humans had faced for centuries: danger combined with the need to think quickly, to adapt, and to survive. The predator lunged suddenly, faster than John expected. The first warrior moved instantly, blocking its path with a powerful leap. Its claws scraped the predator's side, slowing it enough for John's trap to spring. The fallen branch swung down, striking the creature and causing it to stumble. It roared, a sound that shook the nearby trees, but it was not defeated. John could feel his adrenaline surging. "It's not over," he said quietly. The warriors circled, eyes focused, muscles coiled, ready to strike again. John noticed the way they moved together, instinctively communicating without words. Humans were capable of strategy and problem-solving, but the warriors had instincts honed over centuries. Together, they could become a formidable team. The predator recovered quickly. It snarled and charged again, this time from a different angle. John leapt out of the way just in time, dragging the child behind a large tree for cover. The warriors met the creature head-on, using speed and agility to dodge its attacks while landing precise strikes. One warrior leapt onto the predator's back, claws digging in, while another distracted it from the side. The third circled behind John, eyes scanning for any sign of additional danger. John realized that he needed to contribute more than just traps. He reached into his pack and pulled out a small smoke device, something humans used for signaling in the wild. He activated it, and a thick cloud of smoke filled the area, obscuring vision. The predator hissed, disoriented, while the warriors used the cover to maneuver closer. John stayed crouched, watching, learning from their movements. Even in the face of danger, he noted their precision, their coordination, and the silent communication that bound them together. When the smoke cleared, the predator had backed off slightly, realizing that its prey was not easy to capture. John took a deep breath, feeling the rush of victory, small as it was. He glanced at the warriors. Their eyes met his, and for a brief moment he saw something like approval. They had witnessed his courage, his ability to act under pressure, and perhaps even a hint of human ingenuity that they could respect. But the jungle was not yet safe. John knew the predator might return, and there were likely others lurking. The child in his arms chirped softly, sensing the tension but also feeling secure in John's presence. He looked down at it, smiling despite the danger. "We're going to make it," he said. "I promise." He raised his hands, trying to signal that he understood. Then cautiously he mimicked their posture, crouching slightly, showing he meant no harm. The lead warrior tilted its head, studying him, and finally gave a soft nod. It was a gesture that John understood immediately: temporary trust. John decided to take the next step. He wanted to communicate more clearly with the warriors, to show that he was willing to cooperate. He reached into his pack and pulled out a small holographic device. Pressing a few buttons, he projected a simple image of the child's near fall, showing the exact moment he had rescued it. The warriors watched, eyes widening as the scene played out. One reached out, touching the hologram, then John, then the child. It was clear they understood now. They saw his intentions and his courage. The predator, however, was still nearby, circling at the edge of the clearing. John realized they could not stay in one place for long. He needed to move to find higher ground and perhaps even find shelter where the creature could not follow. He pointed to a ridge above them, signaling his plan. The warriors flicked their tails in acknowledgement, ready to follow. The child chirped again as if approving, and John smiled. The climb to the ridge was slow and careful. John led the way, using his strength and knowledge of climbing to find safe paths. The warriors moved with silent grace, their eyes constantly scanning for danger. The child clung to John, trusting him completely. When they reached the top, the view revealed more of the jungle. It stretched endlessly, green and alive, with shadows moving in the distance. John realized that this world was full of life, some of it beautiful, some of it deadly. At the ridge, they paused to catch their breath. The warriors circled the child protectively, while John checked the area for any signs of the predator. He noticed subtle tracks in the soil, signs that it had not given up. He knew this was only a temporary reprieve. But he also knew that humans had an advantage: thinking, creativity, and the ability to adapt. That might be what allowed them to survive this jungle, where strength alone was not enough. The lead warrior approached John, moving slowly, cautiously. It made a series of soft sounds, almost like a question. John thought for a moment, then gestured toward the child and himself, then lifted his hands to indicate he wanted to help, not harm. The warrior tilted its head, then did something unexpected. It placed one paw lightly on John's shoulder, a sign of trust, fragile but real. John felt a warmth spread through him. He had earned a small measure of respect from a species far stronger and more dangerous than himself. The child chirped happily, sensing the change in the warrior's behavior. John laughed quietly, relieved. "We're going to make it," he said again, "all of us." He realized something profound. Courage alone had not saved them. It had been courage combined with thinking, quick adaptation, and empathy. Those were human traits, and in this moment they had made the difference. The jungle grew quiet again, but John knew it was only a pause. The predators were still out there, and the dangers of this alien world were far from over. Yet for the first time, he felt a real sense of connection with the warriors. They had seen him act selflessly, they had witnessed his cleverness under pressure, and they had begun to trust him. He looked down at the child, safe for now, and smiled. "We'll get through this jungle," he said. Together, the warriors flicked their tails in agreement, and John felt a surge of hope. In this world full of unknown dangers, humans were not just survivors. They were capable of courage, intelligence, and compassion that could earn respect even from the fiercest alien species. The predator's eyes glinted from the shadows one last time before it retreated, leaving the jungle temporarily calm. John knew it could return at any moment, but for now they had survived, and that was enough. He looked at the warriors, then at the child, and felt a bond forming that could change everything. Humans were not the strongest physically, but they had something else, something that allowed them to face impossible odds and come out alive. John Carter had proven that, and he would continue to prove it, no matter what challenges the jungle or the universe threw at him. The jungle was calm for a moment, almost eerily so. John Carter and the three alien cat warriors crouched behind a cluster of ferns on the ridge, keeping the small alien child safe between them. The predator had retreated, but John knew it was only a matter of time before danger returned. His mind was racing, analyzing the terrain and thinking of ways to ensure safety, not just for himself, but for the child and the alien warriors who had, against all odds, begun to trust him. He studied the warriors carefully. Each one was different, though they moved with perfect harmony. The lead warrior had deep, amber eyes filled with intelligence and cautious respect. The second was taller, with darker stripes on its fur, and exuded a quiet confidence. The third was smaller, quicker, and constantly scanning the surroundings, ready to strike at a moment's notice. They were powerful, agile, and deadly, but John realized they lacked one thing that humans excelled at: improvisation. In a moment of real danger, humans could think outside patterns, see possibilities the instinct-driven warriors might miss. That gave him hope. John crouched low, holding the child, and whispered softly, "We need a plan." "They're smart, but we can be smarter together." The child chirped, nuzzling his arm as if agreeing. The lead warrior tilted its head, ears flicking, and John took it as encouragement. He needed to show them that humans could be allies, not threats. He started with a simple observation. The predator had been tracking them through the shadows, relying on sight and scent. If they could create obstacles and confusion, it would give them an advantage. John spotted thick vines hanging from a tree and carefully pulled them down, tying one end to a rock and the other to a tree trunk. When triggered, it would swing like a pendulum, slowing or diverting an approaching threat. He gestured toward the warriors, pointing to the makeshift trap. They watched, then mirrored his actions instinctively, adjusting the setup with speed and precision. The predator stirred in the distance, drawn by the child's scent once again. Its eyes glowed faintly as it began moving toward them, careful and deliberate. John's heart raced. This time he needed more than just a trap. He glanced around and spotted a small ravine leading to a cluster of rocks. If they could lure the predator there, they could funnel it into a confined space where its size would become a disadvantage. He signaled to the warriors, pointing to the ravine and using gestures to communicate the plan. The warriors tilted their heads, but then nodded subtly. John's human intuition told him to add another layer of defense. He pulled out a small smoke device from his pack and activated it. Thick white smoke filled the area, cutting off sight and forcing the predator to rely on sound and scent alone. The warriors spread out strategically, circling the child and John, their movements synchronized, silent, and lethal. The predator roared, frustration and confusion mixing in its voice. It lunged toward the smoke, claws digging into the soft earth, but John's trap swung into action. The vine hit the creature, causing it to stumble, and the warriors pounced. One leapt onto its back, clawing and striking with precision, while the others blocked escape routes. The predator was strong, but it was not used to coordinated attacks combined with strategy it couldn't anticipate. John stayed low, watching and analyzing every movement. He noticed a pattern. The predator always hesitated for a brief moment before attacking. That hesitation was the opportunity. Using a stick, he triggered a second trap, a falling branch that blocked one of the creature's retreat paths. The predator roared in frustration, thrashing and struggling, but the warriors kept it in check, their claws and speed wearing it down. Finally, the predator retreated, limping into the jungle shadows, clearly defeated for now. John exhaled, feeling a rush of triumph. He glanced at the warriors, who looked at him differently now. There was respect in their eyes, admiration even. They had witnessed his courage, his quick thinking, and his willingness to act when others might hesitate. The lead warrior stepped forward and made a series of melodic sounds, softer than the hisses and roars from before. John could not understand the words, but the tone was gentle, almost approving. He nodded slowly, keeping his voice calm. "We're on the same side," he said. The warrior flicked its tail in acknowledgement, a subtle but meaningful gesture. John knew this was more than just a temporary truce. He had earned a level of trust from beings far stronger and more dangerous than himself. It was proof that humans had something unique: courage, intelligence, and adaptability. The child chirped happily, sensing the shift in mood, and John smiled, feeling a bond forming that went beyond words. But the jungle was far from safe. John knew that this predator might not be alone. The area was teeming with life, some beautiful, some deadly, and he could not predict what else might appear. He needed to learn more about these warriors, about their strengths, their weaknesses, and how they could work together. He decided to take a small risk. Using the alien device the warriors carried, a simple projection tool that showed images, he gestured toward the child and then toward himself, trying to convey that he had acted out of protection, not aggression. The lead warrior watched intently, then touched the projection, the child, and finally John. It was clear they understood. They had seen his intentions, his bravery, and the choice he had made to act selflessly. As the afternoon sun began to filter through the canopy, John realized that the child's parents were not nearby, and the warriors were likely acting as temporary guardians. He needed to ensure the child's safety until they could return home. He looked at the warriors and made a simple gesture. He would lead them and the child to safer ground. The warriors tilted their heads, then followed, tails swaying in cautious agreement. The climb down from the ridge was careful. John led the way, choosing paths that were stable but difficult for large predators to navigate. The warriors followed close behind, their movements silent and fluid, while the child stayed in John's arms, chirping softly but not panicking. Every step was deliberate, every movement calculated. John could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on him, but he welcomed it. When they reached a small clearing near a river, John paused to catch his breath. The warriors circled, forming a protective barrier, while John placed the child gently on the ground. The child chirped and ran a few steps, testing the new surroundings. The warriors watched with attentive eyes, their ears flicking at every sound. John realized that this moment, simple as it seemed, was a victory. They had survived together and the child was safe. But John also knew that survival was more than just avoiding predators. It was about understanding, cooperation, and trust. He had begun to earn the trust of beings far stronger than himself, not through strength alone, but through action, courage, and intelligence. That was a uniquely human quality, one that he realized could make a real difference in this alien world. The jungle was alive around them, but for a moment there was peace. John watched the warriors interact with the child, seeing their care and vigilance. It was a reminder that even in a dangerous world, bonds could be formed and trust could be earned. He had taken the first step in proving that humans were not just survivors. They were capable of heroism, creativity, and compassion that could rival even the most powerful alien species. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the clearing, John made a decision. He would stay with the child and the warriors, at least until the child's parents could be found. He would learn their ways, their strengths, and how to survive in this jungle. And in doing so, he would prove that humans had a place here, not just as explorers or outsiders, but as allies, capable of courage and ingenuity beyond instinct alone. The lead warrior approached John once more, making a soft, melodic sound. It was not a command nor a threat, but an invitation. John understood immediately. They were offering him a chance to become part of their team, to share in their knowledge and protection. He nodded slowly, accepting the gesture. It was a small victory, but significant. Humans could adapt, learn, and earn respect, even in a world where every step could be lethal. The child chirped again, hopping lightly between John and the warriors, and John felt a surge of hope. They were not just surviving. They were learning, cooperating, and growing stronger together. In that moment, he realized that the jungle, with all its dangers and mysteries, was not a place of fear, but a place of opportunity. And as night began to fall, painting the jungle in shades of deep green and gold, John Carter understood something profound. Humans were not the strongest, nor the fastest, nor the most instinctive. But they had courage, intelligence, empathy, and the ability to act when it mattered most. Those qualities, he realized, could turn even the most perilous situations into victories. The predator might return, and other dangers would surely follow. But for now, John, the alien child, and the three warriors had survived together. They had formed a bond built on trust, courage, and mutual respect. And in that bond, John saw the beginning of something greater, a chance to prove that humanity, even in a world full of alien threats, could rise to meet any challenge. Night had fallen over the jungle, and the forest was alive with sounds both beautiful and frightening. Strange calls echoed through the canopy, and unseen creatures rustled in the undergrowth. John Carter crouched beside the small alien child, keeping it close to his chest, while the three alien cat warriors formed a protective circle around them. Their eyes glowed softly in the moonlight, scanning the shadows for any sign of danger. The events of the day had brought them together, but John knew this jungle held even greater threats, and their true test was only beginning. The child chirped softly, brushing against John's chest as if sensing his calm. He smiled down at it. "We're going to get through this," he whispered. The warriors responded with low, melodic sounds, a language he could not understand but a tone that seemed approving. John had come to understand that gestures, tone, and actions could speak louder than words. Courage, he realized, had a universal language. Suddenly, the jungle erupted in a cacophony of sound. Branches snapped and the ground trembled. From the shadows, a group of enormous predators emerged, larger and faster than the one they had faced before. Their scales shimmered in the moonlight, and their eyes glowed with a predatory intelligence. These were not mindless beasts. They were hunters, coordinated and cunning, clearly working together. John's heart pounded. This was the true test. He glanced at the warriors. Their ears flicked, tails lashing, and their muscles tensed. John could feel the power radiating from them, but he also realized that brute force alone would not be enough this time. He needed to combine human intelligence with their strength and agility. The three warriors seemed to understand immediately, positioning themselves strategically around him and the child. They formed a defensive formation, agile and precise, but they waited for John's signal. John took a deep breath, scanning the area. He spotted a fallen tree trunk angled across a small ravine and a cluster of rocks that could be used as obstacles. He quickly pointed toward the tree trunk, then toward the rocks, signaling a plan. The warriors tilted their heads, understanding. John was going to lead the predators into a trap. He checked his equipment, pulling out ropes and small tools from his pack, ready to improvise as needed. The predators charged. The jungle shook under their weight. John took the first step, moving swiftly but carefully, drawing their attention. One warrior darted out to the side, intercepting a predator while the others flanked him. The child clung to John's back, and he whispered words of reassurance, keeping it calm. As they moved through the jungle, John triggered the first trap. He pulled a vine, and a heavy branch swung down, knocking one predator off balance. The warriors struck immediately, claws and teeth hitting with precision. John stayed low, analyzing each movement, ready to adapt. The predators were fast, stronger than the ones he had faced before, but they were predictable in their coordination. John used that to his advantage, anticipating their attacks and guiding the warriors in subtle ways. The predators roared, but John and the warriors moved as one. They darted through the trees, using the terrain to their advantage. John noticed that the predators relied on their size and speed, but lacked the human ability to improvise in unexpected ways. He signaled to the warriors. and together they led the predators into a narrow gorge where their size became a disadvantage. Rocks, vines, and fallen logs created obstacles, slowing their pursuit. One predator managed to break free, lunging toward John and the child. He rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding its claws, and grabbed a vine to swing himself behind a large tree. The child chirped, startled, but John held it close, murmuring calming words. The warriors intercepted the predator, slashing and striking with precision. John noticed their synchronization was incredible, but they still relied on instinct. He could think several steps ahead, guiding the battle like a strategist. Using rocks and vines, John created a path that funneled the predators into a trap. As the first predator fell into a shallow pit he had dug and covered with loose branches, the warriors struck again, keeping the others at bay. John's heart raced, adrenaline surging, but he stayed calm, analyzing each move. He realized that humans were capable of combining intelligence, courage, and adaptability in ways instinct alone could not match. The predators, frustrated and confused, began to retreat, realizing they could not overcome the combined strategy of human ingenuity and alien agility. John and the warriors pressed forward cautiously, ensuring the child remained safe. Each predator that fell into a trap or was blocked by the warriors reinforced the bond between human and alien. They were learning from each other, adapting together in a deadly dance. Finally, the last predator hesitated at the edge of the clearing. It sniffed the air, clearly uncertain. John stepped forward slowly, showing no fear. "You can leave," he said quietly. He did not raise a weapon, did not make a threatening move. He simply stood, calm and resolute. The predator seemed to sense the human's confidence and intelligence, and after a tense moment it retreated into the shadows. The jungle fell silent again, except for the soft breathing of John and the child. The warriors circled them, ears flicking, tails swishing, but their posture was less tense. John realized that he had earned not only their trust but also their respect. He had proven that humans were capable of courage, intelligence, and adaptability in ways that even these alien warriors could admire. John set the child down carefully, and it chirped happily, running a few steps before returning to him. He laughed softly, feeling a sense of triumph. The warriors made soft, melodic sounds, a language of approval, and one even approached to touch his shoulder lightly, a gesture of respect and acknowledgement. John had earned a place in their group, not as a stranger, but as an ally. He took a moment to catch his breath, looking around at the jungle. The dangers were far from over, but they had survived together. The child was safe, the predators had been driven off, and the warriors had begun to trust him. He realized something profound. Humans were not the strongest, nor the fastest, nor the most instinctive. But their courage, intelligence, and willingness to act when it mattered most could turn impossible situations into victories. John knew they could not stay in one place. More predators could appear, and the jungle was full of unknown dangers. He signaled to the warriors, pointing toward a safer path along the river. The warriors followed without hesitation, and the child chirped, hopping lightly as they moved. John led them carefully, using his knowledge of terrain and strategy to ensure safety. As they moved, the warriors began to share their own techniques with him. They showed subtle ways to move silently, how to anticipate danger, and how to use the environment to their advantage. John watched carefully, learning quickly. He realized that humans and aliens could complement each other perfectly. Humans could think ahead, improvise, and adapt, while the warriors provided raw speed, strength, and instinct. Together, they were a force no predator could overcome. By the time they reached a small clearing near a stream, the jungle had grown darker and the moonlight reflected off the water. John set the child down near the stream, allowing it to drink and explore safely. The warriors relaxed slightly, though they remained vigilant. John felt a sense of accomplishment and pride. He had acted selflessly with courage and intelligence and had earned the trust of an alien species far stronger than himself. The lead warrior approached him again, making a soft, melodic sound. John raised his hands, showing he understood. The gesture was simple but powerful. He was now part of their group, not as a master or a servant, but as a partner. The child chirped happily, sensing the bond that had formed. John sat down near the stream, taking a moment to reflect. The jungle was full of danger, full of unknown challenges, but he had proven something important, not just to the warriors, but to himself. Humans had a place in this universe. Courage, intelligence, empathy, and the ability to act decisively in critical moments were traits that could earn respect, build alliances, and change outcomes in ways strength alone could not. He looked at the warriors, then at the child, and felt a surge of hope. Together, they could face any danger. The predators of the jungle were only the beginning. If humans could survive here, adapt, and learn, there was no challenge they could not meet. And as he watched the warriors interact with the child, teaching it subtle ways to move and survive, John understood that he had become part of something greater. The jungle, with all its dangers and mysteries, was not just a place to survive. It was a place to prove worth, to build trust, and to demonstrate that humans, even in a world full of alien predators, could rise to meet impossible odds. John Carter had survived the day through courage, intelligence, and adaptability. He had earned respect and forged bonds that could last a lifetime. And as the night deepened, the jungle alive with distant calls and rustling leaves, John knew that the adventures were far from over. New challenges would come, but he was ready. With the child safe and the alien warriors as allies, he understood that humans had a place in this alien world. Not just as explorers or outsiders, but as beings capable of courage, ingenuity, and compassion that could rival even the most powerful creatures in the universe. For the first time, John felt a true sense of belonging, not just in this jungle, but in the universe itself. Humans were not the strongest, but they were capable of greatness. And in moments like this, in the heart of a dangerous alien world, that greatness shone brighter than any fear. The first light of dawn filtered through the dense jungle canopy, casting long streaks of gold across the forest floor. John Carter crouched beside the small alien child, watching as it explored the clearing near the stream. The three alien cat warriors were nearby, their keen eyes scanning every shadow, ears twitching at the slightest sound. The events of the previous night had bonded them together, but John knew that the jungle still held greater dangers. Their survival depended not just on courage or strength, but on intelligence, coordination, and trust. The air was thick with tension, though the child seemed unaware of it. John gently lifted it onto his back, feeling its tiny claws cling lightly to his vest. "We're going to face the challenge together," he whispered. The warriors responded with soft, melodic sounds, acknowledging the words even if they could not understand them. They had learned to trust John, and he had learned to trust them. It was a fragile but powerful alliance. Suddenly, the jungle trembled, and a roar unlike any they had heard before echoed through the trees. The ground shook beneath their feet. From the shadows, a massive creature emerged, far larger than the predators they had encountered before. Its scales glinted like polished metal, its eyes burned with intelligence and hunger, and its claws dug deep into the soft earth as it advanced toward them. John's heart pounded. This was the ultimate test, the predator that had haunted this jungle for years, feared by all who lived here. The alien warriors crouched, muscles tensed, tails lashing. John held the child firmly, scanning the area for any advantage. He noticed the terrain rising ahead, forming a narrow canyon that could be used to funnel the creature. Beyond the canyon, he saw a dense cluster of rocks and fallen trees that could create natural obstacles. He quickly gestured to the warriors, signaling his plan. They nodded, understanding immediately. John had no weapons powerful enough to fight such a beast directly, but he had something equally important: strategy. The warriors trusted him now, and together they could use their combined strengths, human intelligence and alien agility, to face this threat. He instructed the warriors silently, pointing to the canyon and then to the rocks, showing how they could lead the predator into a trap. The child chirped softly, sensing the urgency but remaining calm in John's steady presence. As the massive creature charged, John led the way, drawing its attention while the warriors flanked it. One warrior darted ahead, leaping onto a tree branch to distract the predator, while another positioned itself near a rock formation to block its path. The third stayed close to John, ready to intervene if needed. Every step was deliberate, every movement calculated. They were no longer strangers, no longer predator and prey, they were a team. The predator roared, its voice shaking the trees. It lunged forward, massive claws striking the ground, but John and the warriors anticipated its movements. Using vines and rocks, John created obstacles in its path, forcing the creature into the narrow canyon. The walls were steep, limiting its mobility, and the warriors struck with precision, slowing it further. John's heart raced, adrenaline fueling his focus. He realized that humans could think several moves ahead, using strategy and creativity in ways instinct alone could not match. The predator roared again, frustration evident in its movements. It tried to break free, but John had planned for every possibility. He triggered a series of simple but effective traps, swinging branches, loose rocks, and vines stretched across the canyon. The creature stumbled, slowed by the obstacles, giving the warriors opportunities to strike. John stayed low, guiding the child safely behind a boulder, and observed the battle with a mixture of fear and admiration. One of the warriors leapt onto the predator's back, claws digging deep, while another distracted it from the side. The third stayed alert, protecting John and the child. John realized that this fight was not just about strength. It was about coordination, intelligence, and trust. The predators relied on brute force and speed, but humans could adapt, improvise, and predict. That was the advantage they had. The massive creature swung its tail, knocking one warrior aside, but John quickly used a fallen branch to block its swing, forcing it to pause. The predator roared in frustration, and John could see exhaustion beginning to set in. The warriors pressed the advantage, striking with precision, their movements synchronized perfectly with John's strategic guidance. Together, they were wearing the creature down. Finally, after what felt like hours, the predator stumbled into a pit John had prepared, its massive weight causing it to collapse partially into the trap. It thrashed violently, but the combined efforts of John and the warriors had contained it. The creature's roars faded into low growls as it realized it could not escape. John exhaled, feeling a rush of triumph. They had done it not through strength alone, but through courage, intelligence, and teamwork. The child chirped happily, sensing the danger had passed, and John smiled. He had protected it, guided it, and earned the trust of the alien warriors. The lead warrior approached him, making a series of soft, approving sounds. John raised his hands in acknowledgement, understanding the gesture. He had proven that humans were capable of bravery, intelligence, and compassion that could earn respect even from the fiercest creatures. The jungle was quiet now, except for the soft rustling of leaves and the gentle flow of the stream. John set the child down, allowing it to explore safely. The warriors circled, their eyes still sharp but less tense. They had learned to trust him, and he had learned to trust them. The predator that had threatened them was no longer a danger, contained by human ingenuity and alien skill. John realized something profound in that moment. Humans were not the strongest, nor the fastest, nor the most instinctive. But their courage, intelligence, and ability to act decisively could change outcomes in ways strength alone could not. That was the essence of humanity, and it had shone brightly in this alien jungle. The lead warrior approached John again, making soft, melodic sounds. This time it placed a paw lightly on his shoulder, a gesture of honor and acceptance. John felt a warmth spread through him. He had earned a place among these beings, not as a stranger or intruder, but as a respected ally. The child chirped happily, sensing the bond that had formed, and John laughed softly, feeling a sense of accomplishment and pride. He looked around at the jungle, aware that it was still full of unknown dangers, but he also knew that they could face whatever came next together. The predators had tested them, but humans and the alien warriors had proven that they could overcome impossible odds through courage, strategy, and cooperation. John felt a surge of hope. This jungle, this alien world, was no longer a place of fear. It was a place of opportunity, a place where humans could show their value and strength in unique ways. As the sun rose higher, casting warm light across the clearing, John guided the child and the warriors toward a safer area near the river. They moved carefully but confidently, each step reinforcing the bond that had formed between them. The child chirped happily, exploring small plants and rocks while the warriors watched attentively. John felt a sense of belonging he had never experienced before. They reached a small plateau overlooking the jungle, a place that offered both safety and a clear view of the surroundings. John set the child down, allowing it to explore freely while keeping a watchful eye. The warriors relaxed slightly, their posture less defensive but still vigilant. John realized that this moment of calm was earned, not given. They had survived together, learned from each other, and built trust through action and courage. John looked at the alien warriors, then at the child, and understood something profound. Humans were not the strongest, but they had something unique: intelligence, adaptability, courage, and empathy. These traits could bridge worlds, build alliances, and earn respect even in the most dangerous environments. He had proven that humanity could shine, even in a jungle full of predators and alien life forms. The warriors approached him, moving in a silent, coordinated formation. The lead warrior made melodic sounds, and John nodded, understanding the gesture. They were acknowledging him as an ally, a partner in survival, and perhaps even a friend. The child chirped, hopping between them, sensing the approval and unity that had formed. John felt a surge of pride. He had protected the child, earned the trust of an alien species, and proven that humans were capable of remarkable courage and intelligence. As the day progressed, John guided the group back toward the safety of a nearby ridge that offered shelter and a vantage point. They moved carefully but efficiently, each step reinforcing the teamwork and trust that had developed over the past 2 days. John realized that this jungle, with all its dangers and mysteries, had become a proving ground for humanity. He had shown that humans could face impossible odds and emerge victorious, not through raw strength, but through courage, intelligence, and determination. By the time they reached the ridge, the sun was high in the sky. John set the child down safely and turned to the warriors. They looked at him with respect and acknowledgement, their tails flicking in subtle gestures of approval. John smiled, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. He had survived, protected the child, and earned the respect of beings far stronger and faster than himself. In that moment, John understood the essence of humanity. Humans were not the most powerful, but they had something far more valuable: the ability to think, to adapt, to act when it mattered most, and to show courage and empathy in the face of danger. Those traits could overcome even the deadliest challenges and earn trust and respect across worlds. He looked down at the child, chirping happily, and then at the warriors. "We did it," he said softly. Together, the warriors responded with melodic sounds, and the child chirped again. John felt a sense of belonging he had never known. Humanity had proven itself, not through domination or violence, but through courage, intelligence, and compassion. And as the jungle stretched endlessly around them, alive with sounds and movement, John Carter knew that humans had earned their place in this alien world. They were not just survivors. They were allies, thinkers, and heroes capable of facing impossible odds and shining brightly in the darkest moments. The child chirped happily, the warriors flicked their tails in approval, and John smiled, knowing that humanity's spirit had triumphed once again.